This is a GK Media podcast.
This podcast is part of the GK Media Studios Creators Network, helping people tell their stories. Become a storyteller today and learn about our podcaster network at gkmediastudios.com.
Hello and welcome to Wellth Talks with myself, Garry Kelly of GK Media, Pádraic Ó Máille of Smácht and Niall Leyden of Atlantic Wealth Management. And thank you to the person who rolled down the window from his 4x4 last Monday and shouted across to me from the Galway Shopping Centre how much he loves Wellth Talks. I didn't know if I was about to get a smack across the head or a compliment, so I appreciated the compliment. Thanks so much. But yeah, we've been sharing the messages amongst ourselves throughout the week as well. They're huge positive feedback that we're constantly getting from people now. It's really grown over the last number of weeks. So thanks everyone so much. And you know, I was talking to someone in business yesterday. They're a year in business. And they're saying, Garry, it's such a lonely journey, the entrepreneurial journey. It's such a lonely journey. And he was just saying he finds great value in the episodes. And again, just to reiterate, that's what this is all about. Wellth Talks is to kind of be the voice for you, to be, you know, maybe the nuggets of wisdoms, or we've been on this journey, we're still on this journey, dispensing what we've learned along the way, which hopefully is helping you in your week to week in business or in life in general. So thanks for all the support, and please continue to share it with other people. Now,
and Garry, on that one, and I know you got, I know you have an agenda, and Niall has a load prepared.
I said Sinead for it.
But Mark Twain once said, I think it's a brilliant quote, he said, I can live for 3 whole months on one good compliment. And I love that expression, yeah. And it's lovely to get the feedback from our listeners, yeah.
I want to talk about the Sabbath day, okay? So people listen now as I go, where is this going?
Is this?
Yeah. So our eldest is making her confirmation this year, and we said, okay, do you know, we better start going to Mass a little bit, or the priest won't know who she is when it comes to her confirmation. So we started going to Mass on Sunday, started making it a habit, a routine. And I was saying to Niall actually a few weeks ago, I'm enjoying this routine more than I expected, because suddenly the 4 of us as a family we leave the house early in the mornings. We're not hanging around on the couch or watching telly or watching YouTube. We're up, we have our pancakes, we're out the door, and we're together for an hour. There's no technologies, there's no distractions. We're listening, we're observing. You know, like the last day, there was a woman in front of me who was really scared because she was going for surgery in the Galway clinic the next day, and she wanted to get a blessing from the priest. And when she was getting the blessing, her husband was saying to someone else how worried he is for her. And that gives you a reality check of what's going on in people's lives. And you think there was a woman who needed a guide dog who was coming into the church. There was a family who I'd say were dripping in money. There was another family in front of us who I'd say weren't as lucrative with cash. But it just, you're seeing all elements of society, and everyone's kind of coming together to this one place. And you have an hour of quietness, stillness, there's a bit of meditation. And I'm doing a healthy regime at the moment. So I'm eating clean. I'm not drinking alcohol. And I met Niall on a Monday morning in the Clybone Hotel because we're doing our accountability meetings. And Niall said, what's the big lesson of the day? And I said, or of the week. And I said, for me, the big lesson this week is, you know, taking time out with the family, having our pancakes in the morning, going to church, and then heading off into town, doing something together as a family, going for a walk. And I'm not waking up on a Monday morning with a sore head because I'm not opening the bottle of wine. I'm not having the whiskey. I'm not having the pint. I'm not eating crap. So because I rested on the Sunday, because I spent time with my family, I did things that are important and meaningful and healthy, I'm starting my week strong. I'm starting my week positive. And it got me into this whole thing of, this is really what the Sabbath day is all about. It's actually not sitting in front of the computer, not making those business calls, is actually just spending time with your family, minding yourself. So you're starting the week then fresh and strong. So that was my enlightenment during the week.
I think that concludes
the Sabbath.
Go in peace.
I don't know whether I want to go to confession, start crying.
Oh, you have to go to confession.
But Garry, thanks for that.
But you were the one who started that conversation internally for me when you said, you know, what's your big lesson learning looking back on the week? And I was like, I'm starting today fresh, Niall. I'm starting my week fresh.
How do I come back from that? I mean, I think for me, folks, is, and you're absolutely right. I mean, Sunday, we've both seen, the two sides of that coin, what a good Sunday looks like. I mean, show me your Sunday, show me your week. Having a good Sunday, whether, if you start well. So at the moment, for us, it's about getting up early, having a swim, going for a cycle, whether it's 50k, 100k, it's case equal, coming home, bit of time with the kids, the family, checking in, doing the small things, which are ultimately big things. And then the other side of the coin is, it might be at a wedding or a confirmation or a communion, being out a Friday or Saturday night. You skip all those little things and all of a sudden, you have a bad Sunday, which runs into a bad Monday, and everyone suffers. Your clients suffer, your family suffers, you suffer. So, I mean, it would be wrong of me to say I'm a saint or an apostle or anything like that. I mean, but, Sundays, it's a great time to reboot, refocus, reset, plot and plan your week. But yeah, I think, when we were having that chat there last Monday week, it was true. I mean, it was quite clear that you were very dialed in, very focused, and you were going to have a good week because of obviously whatever you were doing over the weekend. Yeah, so
Sunday being your day of rest, your Sunday dictates your week. That's kind of the lesson that I've learned. Your Sunday, how you treat yourself, what you do on a Sunday dictates your week.
I'm very impressed with the two of you. I've got to say that I'm not a saintly at all. I think very interesting, just listening to your first point, Garry, I'd forgotten about Mass. And I think it's a really interesting thing that you say is the routine of Mass. And okay, it's been, I won't say foisted on you by the confirmation and that, but routine is really good in our lives. And, while I gave out and ranted and raved about Mass all my life, there was a certain amount of peace to it. You mentioned a number of times going together with your family. It's really, really, really powerful, that. And I think routines are really important. And that's one of that. There was a lovely one when I lived in Galway that we did as a family for a number of years. We would go to the Poor Clares at 8 o'clock. It's a beautiful Mass for anybody in Galway. And what's beautiful about it is it's not so much even the religion. It's the singing, it's the church, it's the smell, it's the reverence, it's the meditation. And yeah, that bit of thing about getting your kit together and getting out in time, and there'd be 20 rows before you got there. But it was a really lovely, I kind of had a sense by 9 o'clock, even if I was hungover as hell, it was a really great start to the Sunday. And I'm delighted you reminded me of that, because I had forgotten the sense and the power of routine, because it's very easy to dismiss Mass, that it's old fashioned and blah blah blah. There's a great power in that, and not necessarily even Mass, but I think we could actually go to a church or a graveyard or a cemetery, or we could build in a routine, a kind of a spiritual routine to that day. Thanks for that idea, Garry.
Yeah. So there you go. I'll see you in church next Sunday.
No, I didn't say in church, but I'll see you in spirit.
I'll go see you at church in the cemetery.
I'll see you in spirit next Sunday. Yeah.
But it does, Garry, it brings you back to your youth. I mean, just following on from Pádraic's piece there is, I was the eldest of four growing up at home in Sligo, and Sunday in our house was always football. So there was four of us, myself, Brian, Michelle and Valerie. You had your shoes polished, you got dressed, you went to Mass, you met your grandparents, sometimes went to the grave. But then it was 12 o'clock, you were into a car and you were gone to a game, whether it was St. Mary's playing Tubbercurry or Torla Strand or wherever that might be. And, the back of I think it was a Volkswagen Jetta 89 SO313, it was either a packet of Opal fruits.
Oh, yes.
It was a Bounty or a Chalk Ice. And it was nothing if you were talking at Mass. But I mean, it was all about that sport, and it was all about the family and the crack and the banter. And when we get together at Christmas, Dad being born Christmas Day, we always look back on the Sundays. And, Mum still gives me a little flack for maybe not going to Mass. You dip in and out of the church and you light a candle or you go to the graveyard and all of that. But I mean, Sundays are magnificent. They're a great day. But they're also the day that we almost, after a game, we love to go for a pint, and then one becomes three, becomes four. Yeah. So it's just getting that balance right.
Yeah. It's funny, even if I look back at my childhood, the Sundays was, we'd go to Mass, we'd then go to my grandparents because they lived in town. Then we'd go for dinner. So it was, to eat out was a fancy thing back in the 80s. So we'd go for dinner somewhere in town. Then we'd go for a spin, and then, Dad would be working maybe in the evening or something like that. But, there was those traditions, those routines, and it was nice. And it was the one time of the week that we were all together doing something together. And they're the memories that you later look back on in life. And I think it's the memories of being together, not necessarily what you were doing together, but just being together. Yeah. It's really important.
Yeah.
But can I bring up something as well, Niall? Accountability. because you were going through a tough weekend recently, and just the importance of holding yourself accountable.
Yeah. So, that was a couple of weeks ago. I mean, Brenda and I travelled to Mayo to say goodbye to a near dear, brilliant friend who was since deceased. And so Pádraic was reposing from his home from 3 to 6. So we went down early. We got down there around 1:30, 2 o'clock, and met some wonderful friends, lifelong friends. And, it was a tough day. He had just turned 60, wonderful guy, physio, very involved in GEA, great family man, just an iconic figure. I mean, there was people from all over the country, but we were coming home. It was a lovely day, sunny. Obviously, you're going to be upset when you're saying goodbye to a good friend. And we hung a right in Ballinrobe. We were heading back down towards Mam Cross. It was absolutely, it was like the sun just came from nowhere. And Brenda says, do you know what, do you want to go into Cairns, which for people that know Galway, down around Leenane, I mean, it's majestic, it's fabulous, it's brilliant. She says, why don't you go in and, you can have a few drinks and a toasty, and sure, we might go and have a bit of tea in Oughterard, and, or maybe back in Moycullen where we live, or Salt Hill or wherever. And everything, my head and my heart, that's all I wanted to do. And I'm thinking, I'm in the car in the morning now at 6 o'clock. I have a full diary. I'm in Dublin 3 days. So we pulled in at a lay-by, and it just kind of sat. I said, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And of course, I made the mistake of ringing Garry. I says, Garry, look at...
expecting me to be like, yeah, go for it, man, you deserve it.
So we meet at 8 o'clock, Pádraic, on a Monday morning. So we gym beforehand. We sit the Clive on. We do our accountability hour, and I was kind of just paving the way for letting Garry know I wouldn't be there. That's something that popped up, and unapologetically said, Niall, why would you do that? Why would you just absolutely self-sabotage? And so to cut a very long story short, I rang ahead at the Ryder Cup was on. Mark lit a fire. We watched the Ryder Cup, went for a swim, went for a sauna, met at trained at 7, at our accountability at 8, and I was on the road for the week at 9. And I mean, that was the difference in what was a tough day and is a tough time for obviously his family and his friends. This is never about me, but and I suppose it's the emotional thing too, folks, in terms of it's very easy, if you always do what's easy, you'll have a hard life. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the social aspect, and I'd score a 20 out of 10 on going out and having a good time. But I was probably looking to get your blessing, and I got quite the opposite, which in hindsight was a great thing. So
you're welcome. He still hasn't said thanks.
Well, in fairness, I thought I've heard the story, but I thought it was extremely strong of you, and I thought it was extremely assertive of you. It's much easier to sort of say, go on, it's only a few pints, we need people like that in our lives who can be friendly, great friends, but who won't let us off the hook and who won't let us get out easy. I heard it. I thought it was a brilliant story. I really, really did. Yeah. I'll give you huge credit in that. The two of you, obviously. Yeah. You for checking in. And psychologically, what that did, Niall, was that created a pause. It was a slight pause instead of going straight in. And the pause, that's what they say, it slows the amygdala down. It allows the neocortex part of your brain to kick in and say, hang on a sec, is this the best decision? It beats the impulse. That's so really powerful stuff from the two of you in that.
Yeah, and what I will say is, last weekend I had a rotter of a day, and I said I need a glass of wine, right? And I said if I ring Niall, he's going to say don't. So I said I won't ring him. I don't want any accountability. But I was good. I just had the one.
And this is coming from somebody for 90%. Any mistake worth making, I've made. I mean, talk about leaning into failure and having. Sundays that everything you shouldn't have done, I've done.
Yeah.
I mean, and Pádraic will smile down with God's help and say, my God almighty, have you banged your head or something? But we've since celebrated them in more ways than one. But I mean, it's just that Sundays are just, they can be wonderful, but they can, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I think they're just such an important day in terms of how you kind of look back on the week and how you set yourself up for the week. So,
no, just on that one, Garry, there's that iconic book we speak a lot about on this program, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. In my opinion, it is the ultimate time management program. But one of the templates that Covey speaks about is winning the week. Yeah. And we've spoken about this before on Wellth Talks. But Covey's one is to take 15 to 30 minutes on a Sunday evening to plan your next week. I think it's really, really powerful. And it's a very simple process. He gets you to identify your key roles, ROLES, in life. So that can be both business and indeed personal. So under personal, it could be father, husband, son, brother, wife, daughter, all of those roles. And then under business, it could be financial, it could be marketing, it could be sales, it could be creator. And simply to write those down, and then to look at some goals for each role. Very simple goals. So let's say it's financial. It's check the accounts every morning for 2 minutes or whatever. And it's a lovely grounding exercise. And what I like about a Sunday evening is there's no big pressure. The phone isn't ringing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But what it does mean, and in fairness, you two are much better than I am at it. It does mean that you are planned and prepped and prepared come Monday morning. And it's a very flexible plan. It's going to blow off. It could be gone by 10 o'clock on Monday morning, but at least you start the week in a good space. So no more than whether it's mass or something spiritual, whether it's going to a match. The other one that I often feel on a Sunday is live theatre. As I say, whether it is a match or whether you go to a concert or something, it uplifts you. It gives you a lift for the week. And I have to say, I feel sorry for people, and I always did, who have to work on a Sunday. I had an uncle, Stefan Ó Máille. He ran Ó Máille's shop in Galway. And I can remember 40 years ago, the Heart of Galway people came together. And in those days, Galway used close on a Sunday and a Monday. Yeah, everyone in the retail game would take 2 days off. They'd work like the clappers on a Saturday, which was grand. And then kind of commercialisation came in and people said, no, we're going to open on the Monday. And I can always remember Stefan railed against it. He said, you'll get the same amount of business, but now you're spreading it over 6 days. You're spreading the overhead. And I remember he had apoplexy when a few of the bigger shops began to open on a Sunday. And I can remember him saying, he says, someday all our shops will be forced to open on a Sunday. And I always thought it was great. He was trying to preserve and protect that little bit of a break. And we always say, John O'Donoghue's great quote, let there be spaces in your togetherness. I think the Sabbath, as you called it, it's a great space in your togetherness of the week.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. And if people are working Sundays, try and find your other day of rest, but set it in stone that this is your day of rest during the week. Pádraic, will you do us a favour? Put me on the spot now. Next week, because you always mention it nearly in every episode, a nugget of wisdom you got from a book. Next week, will you bring in maybe your top 3 or 4 books and talk to us about them? Because I think that'll be really good.
I will do. Will do, Gary. Be delighted to do that.
Idea.
Delighted to do that.
Perfect.
What if that book hasn't been written yet?
That could happen too.
Yeah. Alrighty, gentlemen, thanks for your time. Enjoy your weekend. Mind your Sunday. And I look forward to chatting with you again next week. And thanks to you for listening to this week's episode of Wellth Talks. As always, give us a like, give us a comment, share it around with friends and colleagues. We really appreciate all the support we're getting. And don't be shy. Get in touch with us as well on LinkedIn or social media, whatever way works best for you. And let us know what topics you'd like us to cover as well on the show. Thanks for listening.
This is a GK Media podcast.